land use and housing strategies focused on producing housing for all. Recognizing that no one single action can address the region's housing challenges, the county utilizes a range of policy tools and regulatory levers to support housing production, improve affordability, and create pathways to home ownership. Today's proposed inclusionary housing ordinance, or IHO, represents one approach to expanding housing opportunities by requiring immediate affordable housing within new residential development projects. At the same time, the county is also working on several other initiatives intended to reduce barriers to housing development, simplify permitting processes, and create additional flexibility for housing and mixed-use projects. Several of those updates will be presented to the board later this year and early next. For today's item, establishing inclusionary housing upfront ensures access to affordable housing and stays central to the county's housing for all strategy. We'll now begin our formal presentation.
Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors. Today, staff is presenting the draft inclusionary housing ordinance, which is an amendment to the county's zoning ordinance. Staff are requesting that the board provide direction on 4 key components of the ordinance and consider its adoption. During today's presentation, we'll provide background information on inclusionary housing and review the ordinance components, which consist of set-aside requirements, minimum project size applicability, alternative compliance measures, and incentives. Then we'll walk through an example project to illustrate how the ordinance can be applied, summarize feedback received during public outreach, and conclude with recommendations. For reference throughout this presentation, the bottom of each slide will show the topic being presented. An inclusionary housing ordinance would require certain new market rate housing projects to either include some affordable units within the project or support affordable housing elsewhere. This is a common tool to support affordable housing production, and most cities in San Diego County have already adopted an inclusionary housing ordinance. In 2021, the board directed staff to develop an inclusionary housing ordinance which would apply to all housing projects over a certain size and capture land value increases from general plan amendment projects that are increasing their density. Preparing an ordinance was also included as a housing element implementation program item. State law requires jurisdictions not only to adopt a housing element, but to also implement the programs within it. Adoption of the ordinance today would implement prior board direction and fulfill the housing element commitment. Failure to implement a housing element program could jeopardize the county's compliance with the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or state HCD, potentially affecting funding eligibility, increasing legal risks, and limiting local control over land use decisions. While the county has met its regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA, for the above moderate, and low-income households, there remains a significant shortfall in housing affordable to very low-income households. An inclusionary housing ordinance would generate about 15 to 60 deed restricted affordable units per year, depending upon the policy options selected by the board, in addition to the affordable units already produced through other county programs. While the ordinance alone will not close the county's very low-income housing gap, it is one of several tools available to support housing production. For housing to be considered affordable, a family should spend no more than 30% of their income on housing. Affordable housing is broken into categories for what is considered to be very low, low, and moderate income. For a family of 4 in San Diego County, a very low-income household earns less than $87,000 per year and could afford housing costs of about $2,200 a month. A low-income household earns less than $140,000 a year, and they could afford housing costs of about $3,500 a month. Lastly, a moderate-income household earns less than $157,000 per year and could afford housing costs of about $3,500 per month. The draft inclusionary housing ordinance was last presented to the board for consideration in August of 2024. At that time, the board directed staff to return after receiving information about the development feasibility analysis, which has since been completed, and the vehicle miles traveled mitigation program, which was presented earlier this month, and consider the following: ensuring overall housing production is not negatively impacted, aligning with state density bonus law to provide incentives while considering program phasing, continuing to engage with experts and community members, and reducing the radius for off-site development from 5 miles to 3 miles. To inform development of the ordinance, staff retained AECOM to prepare an economic analysis, which was peer reviewed. The analysis evaluated the feasibility of a range of affordable housing set-aside requirements and identified associated in-lieu fee options across different project types. Given the time that has elapsed since the original study was completed, staff retained KMA to conduct an independent review of the AECOM analysis. KMA found that AECOM's methodology for evaluating inclusionary housing requirements was consistent with industry practice. KMA also noted that market conditions have changed since the original analysis was prepared, including increases in construction, labor, and insurance costs, while rents and home prices remain stable.
As a result, KMA recommended that adoption of an inclusionary housing ordinance includes set-aside requirements that enable projects to absorb regulatory requirements and market shifts. In recognition of the third-party review findings and recommendations, staff has organized the ordinance into 4 components, each representing a policy decision point of the board. First, the board is asked to establish the set-aside or percentage of affordable housing units required in a housing development and the affordability levels of those units. The set-aside options are grouped into 3 tiers based on their estimated impact on housing feasibility, with Tier 1 having the lowest impact and Tier 3 the highest. Second, the board is asked to select the minimum project size that will be subject to the inclusionary requirements. The board may choose a lower threshold, which would apply the requirements to more projects, or a higher threshold, which would apply the requirements to fewer projects. Third, the board is asked to select 1 or more alternative compliance options that would allow developers to satisfy all or part of the affordable housing requirement through a method other than providing on-site units. The board may choose to allow a limited number of alternative compliance options or a broader range of options for more flexibility. Last, the board is asked to consider allowing additional incentives to encourage the provision of affordable units on-site. The board may choose to provide no additional incentives, a limited number of incentives, or the full suite of all incentives presented. The following slides provide additional detail on each ordinance component. Then, staff will conclude this section by walking through an example project that puts all of the components together. The first component, the set-aside requirement, most directly shapes the affordable housing outcomes of the inclusionary housing ordinance. The set-aside consists of 2 parts. First, the percentage of units within the market rate development that must be provided as affordable housing, typically ranging from 5 to 20%. And second, the affordability level of those units, such as very low, low, or moderate income. For example, if the county established a 10% low-income set-aside requirement, then a 10-unit project would be required to provide 1 unit to a qualified low-income household. Today, the board is asked to establish 3 separate set-aside requirements, 1 for for-sale projects, 1 for for-rent projects, and 1 for general plan amendment for GPA projects. The set-asides are evaluated separately because project economics can vary by development type. For for-sale projects, housing developers have emphasized the need to focus on low or moderate income units for this project type, as buyers with lower incomes often are more challenged with qualifying for mortgage financing and down payment requirements. By comparison, affordable housing advocates and community members have shared that for-rent projects are better positioned to provide housing affordable to extremely low and very low incomes, which would most support the county's RHNA goals and address the shortage of cheaper levels of affordable housing. Finally, environmental groups have shared the desire for GPAs to support higher set-aside requirements because they receive additional development potential through upzoning. With that context, the next slide shows the range of set-aside options available for the board's consideration. The available set-aside options have been organized into 3 tiers that represent increasing levels of affordable housing requirements and associated impacts. This table shows the range of set-aside options available for each project type. Consistent with prior board direction, all options align with Stevens as well. Tier 1 set-asides are expected to have a relatively lower impact on both market rate housing projects and affordable housing production. Conversely, Tier 3 set-asides are expected to result in higher affordable housing production while also having a greater impact on project feasibility. For example, if the board directs a Tier 1 set-aside for sale projects, that would require a new housing project to include 10% of its units as affordable to moderate income families. In light of the findings of KMA's third-party review and board direction to prepare an ordinance that does not negatively impact housing production, certain Tier 2 and Tier 3 set-asides have been grayed out to identify options that may be less likely to remain feasible under current market conditions. However, all set-aside options identified in the original AECOM analysis remain available for the board's consideration today. To adopt the inclusionary housing ordinance, staff requests that the board choose a set-aside between Tier 1, 2, or 3 for each of the 3 project types. The second component, the minimum project size, determines when the inclusionary housing requirements will apply to new projects. If the county adopts the 10-unit minimum project size, then all projects that are 10 units or more would need to include or support some affordable housing. The lower the minimum project size, the more projects will be required to contribute to affordable housing. Most projects in the county are 1 or 2 units and would not be subject to the inclusionary housing requirement. In addition, any accessory dwelling unit or ADUs in a project do not count towards the minimum project size. For projects that meet the minimum project size, they will either build the required affordable housing on-site or choose a form of alternative compliance. To adopt the inclusionary housing ordinance, staff requests that the board choose a minimum project size, selecting either a lower threshold, higher threshold, or another threshold selected by the board.
The third component, alternative compliance, allows the inclusionary requirement to be satisfied without building affordable units on site. State law requires that the county have at least 1 alternative compliance option. The first 2 types of alternative compliance are off-site development and land donation. Off-site development would allow affordable units to be built off-site instead of being built for the market units at the original project site. Land donation would allow land suitable for affordable housing development to be donated to the county for a future affordable housing project. To address equity concerns related to moving the affordable units away from the rest of the market housing, there are specific location criteria Alternatively, the project could sell up to 50% of the affordable units as smaller accessory dwelling units. Or they could donate land for future affordable housing. Or they could build the units away from the rest of the project within specific areas. The inclusionary housing ordinance engaged with a wide range of industry and community members and groups during an extensive public outreach period, including over 80 meetings from 2020 through 2026, summarized here. From affordable housing advocates and community members across the unincorporated county, staff heard a desire to focus on the need for very low-income housing where the need is the greatest, ensure affordable units are not separated from market rate units, and ensure new fees are used to support affordable housing development. From builders to developers, staff heard the importance of emphasizing the needs of other ordinance that would not harm overall housing production, including consideration of fees within the ordinance and the timing of providing affordable units in relation to market rate units. Included in this was a focus on moderate income units for sale, choosing a higher minimum project size, providing flexibility for projects by allowing multiple alternative compliance options, and providing additional incentives. They expressed that the more regulatory requirements are placed on market rate housing, the less likely those projects are to pencil out. Finally, two community planning groups, Walbrook and Valley Center, voted in 2023 recommending that their communities be excluded from the inclusionary housing ordinance. Staff found the feedback received and reflected these comments in the tiers of set-asides and other component options available to the board. Staff incorporated feedback from industry representatives into the ordinance in the following ways. Included moderate home ownership options. In response to changing market conditions and the findings of the KMA review, staff identified lower impact tier 1 and tier 2 options that are more likely to remain feasible under the current market conditions. Increased flexibility by allowing applicants to choose from multiple set-aside options within tier 2. And with regards to alternative compliance, expanded options to include allowing new fees for all projects, providing greater flexibility for land donation and off-site development locations, allowing affordable wholesale use, and removing affordable unit size comparability requirements. Finally, staff provided additional incentive options, including doubling state density bonus up to 50%. Following the release of the board letter, staff received stakeholder comments requesting clarification regarding how county inclusionary housing incentives are requested and how they interact with the state density bonus incentive. Staff agrees that the ordinance language could be clearer and is recommending clarification to section 6341B to make it clear that applicants must identify requested inclusionary housing incentives in their affordable housing plan, and those incentives do not count against the concessions and incentives available under state density bonus. In addition, the board may direct staff to allow off-site construction, land donation, and in-fee expenditures to occur outside the unincorporated area. In conclusion, staff recommends the Board of Supervisors find the proposed ordinances comply with CEQA, adopt the inclusionary housing ordinance, and provide direction on each of the 4 components, adopt the in-fee ordinance if applicable, and incorporate changes to clarify language on the use of density bonus incentives and to allow the use of new fees, land donation, and off-site construction outside the unincorporated county. This concludes the presentation, and staff is available to answer questions.
Certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll go to public comment and then come back to the board for discussion.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Members, we have 19 total requests to speak, 10 individuals in person, and 9 requesting to speak by phone, and we were notified that there is 1 group presentation as well. I would also like to note for the record, we did receive 5 key comments on this item. 1 was in favor, 2 were in opposition, and 1 was neutral. For any individual that has requested to speak on this item by phone, please dial the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. We will go ahead and begin with the group presentation. You will have 10 minutes to address the board. All 3 members of the group must speak during that 10 minutes. Please self-regulate your time with the timer on the podium. I'd like to invite forward the group presentation that includes the following individuals: Mohammed Umar, Guadalupe Rojas, and Nicole Lilly.
I don't see them here, so
They're coming from the upper one.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. And then just as a reminder, each person in the group may speak for no more than 4 minutes. state your name to the podium. You'll have 10 total minutes, but no one person can speak more than 4 minutes.
Hello, my name is Nicole Lilly. Guadalupe Rojas.
Hello, my name is Mahmoud Umar.
Thank you. And whoever's going to start, may start.
We have a presentation.
Just try to give it one more minute, if not, we'll need this time to talk.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Mahmoud Umar. I'm with the Partnership for the Council of New Americans, and I'm here with partners from the CED, Coalition for Equitable Development, to speak in favor of strong community focused inclusion in the housing ordinance. And I'd like my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Nicole Lilly. I'm the Executive Director of Our Time to Act. We are a youth-led housing justice organization.
Guadalupe Rojas with Mid-City Community Advocacy Network based in City Heights.
We're here today to advocate on behalf of the 166,000 individuals and families who live in the unincorporated county and don't have adequate access to an affordable home, in part because we have filled our local toolbox with all the tools necessary to support the development of affordable housing. Inclusionary housing is one of those missing tools. By adopting the ordinance, we can capture some of the gain from rising real estate values to produce affordable homes for lower income households. The county originally committed to passing inclusionary housing ordinance by 2022 with the goal of reducing patterns of economic and racial segregation, reducing sprawl, and promoting population health and quality of life by creating mixed income development in higher resource areas. According to a January report from Bureau of Labor Statistics, San Diego faced the nation's second highest combined burden of housing and transportation costs, eating up over 55% of average household expenditures. This chart shows how delayed actions on inclusionary housing has harmed very low-income households, many who are the backbone of our economy. San Diegans are harmed when affordable units aren't built because they are forced to pay more of their income for rent and forego necessities such as nutritious food food and children and healthcare. San Diegans experience harm when they are forced to move far from family and community. We ask the steps we take today meet the most critical unmet need homes affordable to individuals and families earning less than 50% IMA. I'll turn over to Nicole.
Thank you. Inclusionary housing is a vital and proven tool for producing affordable housing. More than 700 programs exist nationwide, including over 158 jurisdictions across California alone. These programs are especially supportive in areas where scarce housing supply and limited housing production result in high home prices. Areas like the unincorporated areas of the county. San Diego was ahead of the nation in implementing segregation, but is woefully behind in addressing it. We're already behind on implementing a proven inclusionary housing program here in San Diego. To make up for missed opportunities, we need policy requirements that maximize the number of units affordable to lower income San Diegans. That means the policy should apply to new developments, commercial and residential conversions, and substantial rehabilitations of multifamily developments that meet program requirements. In addition to applying to all housing developments in unincorporated areas that result in a net increase of available units, feasibility studies should be updated every 3 to 5 years to account for changing market conditions. This is to ensure that inclusionary requirements do not prevent production or fail to capture land values that will help us meet our RHNA goals. The county should also review and adjust set-asides every other year to ensure that policy remains targeted to respond to unmet community needs. The thresholds and set-asides proposed today are based on the 2023 ACOM analysis and KMA's third-party review from earlier this year, specifically aimed at simplifying initial program implementation. Based on that analysis and current rate of progress, we ask that you prioritize options and provide the greatest number of low-income and for-sale units and very low-income rental units. We also urge the board to make the policy flexible enough to be responsive to the needs of different submarkets, leverage the village framework, and incentivize development in opportunity-rich areas. For example, submarkets with higher permitted densities are better positioned to support affordable units by utilizing density bonus incentives. Therefore, the policy should be designed to incentivize density in higher opportunity VMC-efficient areas where it is already designated. Like, for example, setting a 5-unit threshold in areas zoned for 15 plus units per acre and a 10-unit threshold in areas for under 15 units per acre. The maps of Fallbrook and Ramona Village show residential urban zones in dark pink, residential variable zones in sky blue, commercial and office zones, some of which allow residential in light pink, and village center zones in white. These maps demonstrate how many of these areas allow increased residential density and how this policy could be used to maximize affordable housing production in unincorporated areas of the county. Spring Valley and Lakeside pictured here provide 2 more examples. To further tailor the program to the county's existing zoning, tiered set-asides could also be established to account for the differences in submarkets. While some stakeholders expressed concern that higher set-asides would not be feasible in current market conditions, a tiered set-aside would allow for higher set-asides and greater ability to maximize density bonuses in areas that are zoned for increased density and lower set-asides in areas intended for more gentle density. We strongly request that today's decision allow the flexibility and responsiveness to analyze and potentially incorporate tiered thresholds and set-asides during future implementation reviews and updates. Thank you. I pass the floor to my colleague Lupe for the remaining slides.
Thank you. We understand that higher set-asides and deeper affordability require more flexible alternative compliance, and we also want to encourage that development happens where it makes sense, especially for the people who will be calling these communities their homes, whether that's high opportunity or VMT efficient areas, while on-site development is essential for the creation of mixed income communities and allowing equal amenities. We don't want to put low-income home buyers at risk of rising HOA fees. So we're open to allowing projects to pay in lieu fees to satisfy their affordable housing obligations, to maximize value capture rental units, limiting fees to projects less than 10 units, and set the fees 5 to 7% higher to incentivize on-site construction and update the fees annually to reflect the costs that the developer would otherwise incur to provide affordable units on-site. Off-site development and land donation should be limited to, it should be limited so that the inclusionary program does not undermine the goal of creating mixed income communities. Specifically, both should only be allowed, as you can see in the map, in areas that are BMT efficient or infill areas of high or highest resource in the community planning area closest to the market rate development to ensure units protect quality of life and hopefully prevent urban sprawl, which could have negative consequences like higher car dependency, social isolation, and less employment and educational opportunities. Off-site units may be allowed only if their location is identified and is owned or site control is demonstrated by the applicant at the time of the first approval. Finally, we don't want to depress or reduce development, so we're also in support of density bonuses as well as priority reviews for on-site development. Thank you all for listening to our priorities.
Thank you. We will now begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you please come forward and hit on the arrows until it's your turn to speak at the podium. You will then have 1 minute to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I will be calling individuals in groups of 3, so please listen for your name. I'd like to invite forward the first 3 individuals: Cesar Javier, allegedly Audra, and Susan Baldwin.
We have reason to believe that we are on the wrong direction. We must build shelter for the homeless, not for those who are physically able to work and have money to rent at least. Ma'am Monica, this is basic. Ma'am Aguirre, how do we shelter the victims of this Tijuana River pollution while clearing the mess? I think morally we are obliged to build a house, a transition house for the sick until they become healthy and land for a job, at least worth getting to pay for rent and own, hopefully, the American dream. Very basic, Mom. What are we doing? God help.
Next two speakers would be allegedly Audra or Susan Baldwin. Okay, not seeing either one of those speakers in the chamber.
Ms. Baldwin, please come forward.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
When your name is called, please come forward, sit in the front chairs, and you can call the names.
Good afternoon, my name is Susan Baldwin, and I'm here today to represent the San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club to support the adoption of an inclusionary housing ordinance. The Sierra Club submitted a letter with our comments in 2023 and resubmitted the same letter signed by myself and Peter Anderson for today's hearing. Today I'm going to just focus on one issue, and that is relating to general plan amendments. The Sierra Club urges the County Board of Supervisors to require 20% affordable units at 65% AMI with no in-lieu fee option. This is like the City of San Diego's North City inclusionary housing requirement, which has been successfully implemented over the past 25 years. It is important that the low-income affordability requirement be set at 65% or lower AMI, not at 80% AMI. Thank you.
Thank you. All the next three speakers: Stephanie Evanuto, Kevin Vino, and Amy Fawcett.
Good afternoon. Sorry about that.
is Stephanie Benvedo. I'm here on behalf of the San Diego Building Industry Association. I want to start by thanking staff. They have diligently and over a very long period of time taken our feedback and our analysis on this policy. So we're excited to see it here today. We appreciate all the time that you spent with us. You'll hear from our CEO today, so I'll leave my comments on the importance of flexibility, but you've also heard some really compelling reasons why we need to truly expedite delivering the additional homes in the unincorporated area. To that end, building in District 4 is not the same typology, financing, or planning as it is in District 2. The diversity of our county should be foundational to the design of this policy because we firmly believe that the unincorporated area of San Diego is the best path to creating truly attainable housing. In other words, we need to maximize those options because alternative compliance options for one area don't always work in another. To do so, we ask for an inclusionary policy that provides ample flexibility, incentives, and phase-in so as not to event planned projects that are already in the pipeline benefiting future CDs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was second or third in line. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. My name is Amy Fawcett, President and CEO of the Building Industry Association of San Diego County. The BIA represents the home building industry and the tens of thousands of local workers who plan, design, and build housing throughout our region. So thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed inclusionary housing ordinance. Today we ask the board to adopt the most practical, pro-housing approach possible. When this discussion began, the board provided clear direction to staff to not impede the production of market rate housing. We encourage you to remain guided by that principle. I'm here on behalf of the local businesses responsible for delivering the housing our region desperately needs. The unincorporated county represents one of the last significant opportunities to develop new housing at a scale that can create naturally attainable homes for working families. The reality is that inclusionary housing requirements do add costs to residential development. The question is not whether costs increase, but how much. Thank you for your time.
Call the final two in-person speakers, Sean Kilkenny and Delma Navarro.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and members of the board. My name is Sean Kilkenny, partner of Nolan Communities. I want to thank staff for their tireless efforts and for putting up with me. My job is to figure out how to develop housing, including leadership, affordable, missing middle, and workforce housing. I'm an expert at it. This board has prioritized transparency, budget workshops, and public engagement. In fact, on this item, you directed staff to engage with experts and stakeholders. There is no more effective stakeholder than small developers like me. And while some necessary changes have been made, I'm going to thank staff for that, there are several important issues that remain within the ordinance. There are concerns that we have continuously raised ad nauseum. If you're intent on adopting an inclusionary ordinance from today, please respect these legitimate issues that we have raised by supporting a motion to provide maximum flexibility, including a minimum of at least a 3-year phase-in, enhanced incentives for on-site affordable housing, and direct staff to work with industry to ensure that the ordinance improves overall housing production. I'm available to answer questions. Thank you.
And yes, you're calling the two in-person speakers, Beverly Audra and Kevin Nino, and they come forward here in the chamber.
Good afternoon, I'm Navarro with the Center on Policy Initiatives. I'm here to support the adoption of the inclusionary housing ordinance, but I'm also here to urge the board to address the disparity in producing low and very low income housing to meet our regional goals, an area where despite great strides, the county continues to fall behind on. To amend this, the board should pursue tiered thresholds based on density to maximize low and very low income units. In addition, loopholes that further increase poverty clustering should not be allowed under this ordinance. For both offsite development and land donations, we are opposed to separating affordable housing units 30 miles from the other housing or within the same community planning area, given how diverse and resources our unincorporated areas are. While it is important to increase housing development, allowing developers to give low income, working class people different living conditions, South San Diegans that the county is okay with some of us having less access to services as basic as grocery stores and public transit. I urge you to support the ordinance, but I encourage you to look at how to properly service San Diegans, often left behind. Thank you.
Wanted to say staff
good job. This is a great pamphlet, leaflet, a lot of information, good paper stock quality, a lot of good graphs to gaslight the people and make them think that you're going to provide housing. It's good. Also, the words of access to housing, right? As long as there's access to it. It doesn't matter if the people get into it. That's not the point. That's not what keeps you guys in compliance. You just got to say that you're getting permitting, you're doing these in lieu fees, land value capture, all of the good stuff that really is good for business. The VMT shenanigans, perfect to make people, get out of their cars. And just your fulfillment to stay in compliance, to get more funding. Great job, you guys. Because the point isn't really to make sure people get into housing, there's plenty of it. We just need to make sure that we provide more so it seems like that people can get into it. And, as long as we have barriers to them getting into it, they never will. Good job.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
In 1982, the largest case of organized voter fraud was discovered. It was discovered by groups like this. Groups taking advantage of our system in order to go ahead and get sweet-ass contracts that don't actually fix anything. Now, the funny thing is, the second that the registrar decides to go ahead and vet our voter rolls on non-citizens, we will discover these organizations have still continuously done it all the way up to this point.
Sir, I've given you a warning previously. This item is the inclusionary housing ordinance. Please, in your 30 seconds that you have left, please speak to the agenda item, or unfortunately I will have to have you forfeit your time.
Okay, I am speaking on that item. I'm afraid that the same shenanigans that took place in 1982 are happening today. And that is why you're pushing these deals like in 1982 you are doing today. The only difference between 1982 and today is that you are, every freaking person up there, the registrar, all of them are working to go ahead and silence anyone pointing out that we don't do any citizenship checks when it comes to voting. We don't do it ahead of time and we don't do it after time.
Thank you. Your time's up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Although this is a step in the right direction, it could lead to good things like a truly integrated society, but devil's in the details, and this ordinance won't do it. First, to get it straight, rent and housing costs are not stable. Unaffordable is not stable. This ordinance will only be truly inclusionary at the smallest possible project size. Section 6341B, option 1 is the way to go. But the subsection exempting units at 80% AMI has got to go. This basically excludes most low-income and homeless people. Noted in lieu fees, you need affordable housing, not let the rich developers pay their way out of it by contributing to another fund, which might be rated like landmarks reserves.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Going forward here. So, amen, Paul, you said it, and the devil is in the details. And on point to Brother Cesar Javier. But unfortunately, for the American dream to exist, people have to be willing to remain slaves. Slavery never ended. It's also unfortunate that there are cities within our county, like Chula Vista, that are more inclined to build sports facility complexes instead of caring to prioritize the needs of those who've been victimized by the same establishment that claims to want to help. But proof is in the pudding, and the lack of inaction for those that need it most is always the case in our county. Those beyond being in desperate need are always neglected and at the mercy of this governmental racket or whatever it is. It's all gross. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to our next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Nana Salek, and speaking on behalf of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. I want to start by thanking county staff for their work on this item to recommend the draft inclusionary housing ordinance represents an effort to produce affordable housing options in the county, which is essential to supporting our region's workforce. We also recognize that it represents an inherent trade-off, including housing costs across the board. Having an overly restricted inclusionary housing ordinance not only deters affordable housing construction, it deters any kind of housing from being built. For this reason, we propose that this ordinance include provisions that help lower the cost of compliance and that incentivize it. The team has submitted a letter with detailed solutions such as a phased-in approach to set aside percentages and minimum project sizes, adoption of all the alternative compliance and incentive options, and a waiving of impact fees for all units produced under the ordinance. We believe these solutions can boost housing production with your economic impact and respectfully request that any adopted ordinance follow this framework.
Thank you. Your time is up. We will go to our next caller.
A truth, inclusionary housing is exclusionary on affordability. Government groups believe they can force housing to come down in price, but it many developers take profit losses, aka communism, or pay a mitigation tax, pretend to build affordable box units. Then they force the middle class to become poor by paying rent for others who can't or won't, aka communism. This force plans are helping when they're actually harming by increasing both housing prices and the cost of living. The federal focus is on ensuring housing production is not negatively impacted, not that prices are negatively impacted. The same free housing voters are but an excuse to implement this inflationary ordinance, because no matter how many box units are permitted, the numbers will never add up to a perfect Queen's got meter demand. This $871,000 ordinance is a hammer in the toolbox that will congest the roads, block the lights, increase fire and law enforcement needs, and remove local control. And the county even used ACOM, who screwed up results with sandbags. The progressive allies attacking the American dream of a single-family home comes as no surprise, because inclusion is an anti-American scam. No.
Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Ann Mills here, speaking to item 5 regarding inclusionary housing. For those of us who may have experience living in subsidized or affordable housing, I'd like to share these observations. When my little family returned back from college graduation in San Diego County, we lived in a complex that was totally affordable for everyone that met the lower income levels, and I highly recommend that rather than a carve out of 10% low income and then the other 90% just gets marked up and no one's out or made any sacrifices, and we really haven't provided the amount of housing we needed. However, there were problems that there were no schools nearby, and there was nothing to do, no policies in place regarding smoking. So in my little group of 2 children would go out to play, the smoking was horrific, not good for little families, and that was primarily what was in affordable housing. So I would write into.
Thank you. Your time is up. And we'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, Jennifer Royston. I would just like to echo what the previous caller just said. I have noticed that these housing that are from the city and supposedly affordable housing, these are where they are housing the criminals that they use to gang stalk you, harass you, and to enforce your silence upon you. The families in there are very minute to the straight up dirtbags that they seem to give all kinds of these great incentives, which is housing. But when I was on the street, they didn't care about my family, but I tell you who they did care about. They cared about every drug dealer around me. They made sure those were housed. So shame on you guys for, and our government is coming
for the fraudulent use of all this housing, the theft of our children. You guys are.
Thank you, your time is up. And Vice Chair Member, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you to members of the public who have come out and also called in. Appreciate the stakeholders for engaging in these conversations with us as supervisors and also with our staff members. Thank you for the presentation on work. Things continue to evolve and change and shift. And one of the good things, I'm not proud that we don't have an inclusionary housing ordinance yet, but we can learn from what's out there. So that is the sort of the silver lining. I also know that the inclusionary housing alone won't solve the entire housing crisis, but it's certainly a tool to reduce housing discrimination socially and economically. And so I will just start this conversation, if y'all would indulge me putting a motion on the floor for what I believe can be a discussion point, and we can kind of go from there. Here's what I'm thinking, that we should, under policy decision number 1, establish and set aside requirements as proposed in tier 2. Under policy decision number 2, set the minimum project size to 10 or more units. Under policy decision number 3, I would like to direct staff in coordination with housing and community development services to develop implementation guidelines, requiring applicants to demonstrate that compliance with higher priority alternatives is not feasible before deciding to go for a lower priority alternative compliance option. And I would like everything to be considered in this order. 1, land donation would come into a very low income to moderate units on site with market rate units, and allow for land donations in incorporated cities. With the change that would remove the line within the 3 miles of the market rate project site, and instead include the community planning area, or BMT efficient or infill area, highest resource area, or village areas as categorized in the general plan. I think we have some language on the screen. I'm going to continue to go through it, but we do have language on the screen. Secondly, would be affordable ADUs on site. 3rd, allow projects to pay a fee to satisfy 50% of the affordable housing obligation. And then the last one of these choices would be off-site development. I don't particularly like off-site development, but having all of these still be a part of alternative compliance is something I'm generally okay with. But I would like for applicants to explore the other options before the off-site development option becomes available. I would also like to take away the 3-mile radius there and include the village areas as categorized under the general plan there as well. Okay, under policy decision number 4, the projects building all of the affordable housing obligations on site are entitled to 1 additional concession beyond state density bonus law. Also further adopt that projects building all of the affordable housing obligations on site are entitled to double the density bonus, otherwise allowed under the state density bonus law and local ordinance, up to a maximum total 50% density bonus. That's a lot, but.
So on that, just for clarity.
It's turning my phone to like, you want to turn your microphone to
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for clarity, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I want to follow along.
Yeah.
So are you saying that the density bonus concessions, you want 1 and 2 or just 2?
I would say 1 and one entity. Let me make sure I have my sheet in front of me. Both.
I thought so, but I want to confirm that.
Go ahead.
Does one override the other? Because I asked myself about that, 1 or 2, if it was an either as opposed to both.
Chair, if I may just clarify, the first option would be setting the density bonus at an additional 5%. The second option would be to override that with a density bonus of doubling the state requirement up to 50%. So they are different.
Okay, so number 2 then. That's the one that. Okay, so there's a couple of additional things I would like to add to policy decision number 4. Under priority reviews, I am okay with that, but I would like to kind of add more specificity about that priority review and put it within 30 days for discretionary permits, so that it's more specific. It's supposed to just kind of like it's faster than we're putting the time in the actual time of the
Chair, then we ask a question, is that for all projects that are subject to the inclusionary or for projects by at least 50% low income affordable units?
Projects for at least 50%.
Thank you.
Allow projects that provide at least 50% more low income affordable units that are required to receive priority review within 30 days for discretionary permits. And then, I think I'm almost done. For additional incentives, I would like to instead of incentive number 1, so I would like the incentives to read, the developer of a residential development providing all required affordable housing units on the same site as the market rate units. Developers option, and it may, if the developer of a residential development providing all required affordable units upon the same site as the market rate units, that developer will have an option. Well, let me come back to that one. Back to that one. The last thing I would like to add is on the applicability. I would like for projects that have already submitted to the county after the date of this ordinance. Well, this is not necessarily a phase-in. This is if there are applicants that have already submitted to the county at this point, that they would be applicable to the law and under which they submitted. Right. It wouldn't apply to them. They've already submitted. Right. Because they've already submitted. So they submitted the implementation of whatever that law was. So I would like to keep that. That this applies to any new applicants based on the ordinance being passed. Okay, and again, Ryan has this on the screen, and so.
I'm getting the direction just to show the underlines. I'm trying to round out language and put it in here just so everyone is clear and on the same page. You're just gonna have to give me a second.
Okay, no problem. As you're doing that, these are the things I want to explore, and not necessarily include in the ordinance now, further explore, maybe when we come back and have this full discussion around, land use updates. I want to look at expanding the use of checklists for inclusionary housing. We do have a consistency checklist in our climate action plan. That maybe could be included. There are other CEQA checklists as well. Part of this creates a more streamlined process, so I would like to look at that. I would also like to look at the consolidation of accounts for developers. We've heard in other cities there's a more consolidated approach from developers have to pay fees. And here where it's a separated approach. Don't know how, we don't know if that's true or not, but we'd just like to look at that for the future. And also just looking at the feasibility of deferrals for developer impact fees under the proposed inclusionary housing program. I believe that we already have a deferral program. I just want to look at that. I certainly don't. I believe in development impact fees, but in this type of deferral for this type of housing in particular would be something that I would want to look at. Of course, we have to do more. We have to align our zoning policies to produce more housing, especially haven't had the discussion yet, but the impact on minimum lot sizes. There's a lack of consistency across the board there, and I know my colleagues that govern over unincorporated areas will be able to speak to that more, but I'm hearing that's also somewhat of an hindrance when we're looking at planning and truly building in an efficient way. And so I am looking forward to continue to have this discussion, but the motion is going to be on the screen and includes a lot, so I know you all have a lot to add to the discussion. We'll go over to Chairperson Greer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some remarks and also would like to propose a friendly amendment. We know that, it's been stated endlessly, that San Diego is unaffordable to live in, and especially for the people who make this region work. Nearly 6 in 10 renters are already overburdened, meaning that more than 50% of their income goes to housing. The median home price is close to $1 million now, and nearly 2/3 of surveyed San Diegans have considered leaving the region with housing costs as a top reason. That is especially true in my district, where families have to double up, sometimes triple up, under one single roof to afford rent. Seniors worry about displacement, workers being pushed away farther and farther from the communities they live and serve, and the next generation feeling homeownership is unattainable. The county, we've taken meaningful action to meet the need. We've committed more than $22 million in additional funding through the Innovative Housing Trust Fund and used public land to help projects move forward. We're also working to make it easier to build near jobs, transit, and existing infrastructure. But public investment can't be our only tool for creating affordable housing. That is why we need this inclusionary housing ordinance. And this policy says that when new communities are built and new value is created, working families should have an opportunity to share in that future. Those making millions off the growth of our region should also help ensure that teachers, caregivers, service workers, seniors, and young families can continue to live here. And at its core, this is about fairness, because where people live shapes the opportunities available to them. For youth, the mixed income developments created through inclusionary ordinances elsewhere have shown greater educational achievement and lifetime earnings. So our housing policy can't only focus on how many homes are built, but also ask for whom they're being built. In fact, we surpassed, as you saw in the presentation, our allocation goals in all categories except for our most vulnerable residents in the very low income category. Our policies should ensure that growth doesn't continue to leave these groups behind. That brings us to today's action, which has been in the works since 2022. With clear paths for advancing mitigation and forthcoming zoning updates, the time to act is now. Projections show that this action could result in a significant amount of new affordable units in this housing element, with even more potential through our Housing Unlocked program, which we know is forthcoming. San Diegans can't wait any longer with similar ordinances proving successful in other jurisdictions without hindering growth. As we heard today, while proceeding, we need to do so with caution. This administration's tariffs have added costs and much uncertainty to an already challenging building environment. We've talked a lot about this, how costly it is to build in San Diego. And based on our third-party review economic analysis, we're being urged to show caution, especially around the most aggressive Tier 3 set-aside options, so that we don't unintentionally slow down housing production. I take that concern seriously, since no development also means zero affordable homes. But caution should also come with urgency. The third-party review calls for a timely reevaluation of the data as market conditions change. I want to see the same. So in the short term, we need to get an inclusionary housing ordinance passed, but my ultimate goal is to get us to Tier 3 with the most amount of affordable housing set aside. That's where the need in our region is taking us, and nowhere is that most urgent than in my district, in District 1. The pathway to Tier 3 should be quick, informed, and based on the most current data available. So whatever we adopt today should be a starting point with a clear commitment to return to the stronger set-asides as soon as they can be supported. So my amendment that I'd like to offer is to have staff come back during fiscal year 2027-2028 with a brand new fresh study that's based on recent data. And I would also like to include adopting Tier 3 as a set-aside for the general plan amendment projects. The requirement should be 20% for low-income communities. So I'm hoping, Vice Chair, that you will accept my friendly amendment.
Yes, I will.
Thank you. With that, I'll second your motion.
Supervisor Anderson.
I like a lot of what you proposed. I had, one of the questions I had for staff, I think that you addressed with your amendment, and that was the priority review. It wasn't well defined. And if you look at SB 330, they have a 30-day review. And my SB 35 had 30 days for, I think it was 150 units, 1,250 units, it was 90 days. So thank you for that definition, Madam Chair. I went through this before, but I had so many people request this of me. I'm going to ask you publicly about it, and that is why don't we bring this inclusionary housing ordinance forward at the same time that we're bringing the housing unlocked item this fall forward? They seem to be interlocked, and you gave me a great answer in my office, but you answering it publicly will save me a lot of phone calls.
Thank you, Supervisor Anderson. Through the chair, I have to give credit to our director, Ms. Nicolay, for his very good answer on this, which I fully concur with. I do understand that sort of the opportunity to bring forward things like Housing Unlocked, which reduce barriers for development concurrently with some of these things like inclusionary housing, which do have some implications and costs for market rate housing. The idea of bringing those together, I understand that we on an ongoing basis have a variety of different efforts that we're bringing forward, levers, as my colleague called them, that will reduce barriers to housing at the board's direction, things like Housing Unlocked, things like other incentives and directives that the board has provided to really push housing forward. At the same time, there may be other things that come forward like inclusionary that could have impact on market rate housing. So it's an ongoing balance, and we continue to move these efforts forward. I don't know that there will be any point in time when that just stops. If we were to bring Housing Unlocked and this forward, it's not a static situation at that point. We will continue to have this flux. So our perspective, especially with these in very close proximity and a number of other items coming forward, is that we continue to push at the board's direction and our own incentives for our own initiative to remove barriers to housing and also seek equity through mechanisms like inclusionary housing.
Thank you. I think that we all can agree 100% of zero is still zero. And as we're moving forward with these policies, submit, they've never been to my district. Because then they would realize there's no transportation. So when you build in a location that there's no public transportation, you're dooming those families, and more importantly, their kids, to be redlined opportunity. So I would like for the chairwoman to consider that if we are going to do a land donation, that we do allow it out. And let me give you an example. If you were to go to Lakeside or say Ramona, you would not have any job opportunities within any range that doesn't require a car. If you don't want a car, because you're truly on the lowest end, is we're trying to help. If they have a car, they don't qualify. They're doomed. They can't take their rent. They can't pay anything. More importantly, their kids never get beyond walking range in their home. Now, I've been supportive of MTS's program to give bus passes to youth. They don't have that access. They don't get that. So we understand that inner city kids have to have mobility so they can get to jobs, they can get to opportunities, they can get to recreation. But we're going to take these families and we're going to doom them in the areas they have no transportation. And I get it's a chicken and the egg. But when my district voted for Transnet, we were promised a trolley to Ramona. There's been no projects in East County, in the unincorporated with Sandy. I take that back. They did do, they bought internet to some of the backcountry because we did $10 million to them to do that. Thank you to Carol Ringer for joining authoring that board letter with me. So that's one thing I think this plan really needs to take into consideration. The other part is, let's look at how we define core. If you were to go to my community of Potrero, where 911 people live, the average household income is $27,000. We're trying to keep people in the neighborhood, and at the same time, we're trying to give them opportunities to go to better schools. I'm sorry, this is red line, just from the other side. So I think that when we go through this, that's another argument. I think that we need to take into consideration of that.
Supervisor, just real quick, you want me to let me finish? I think we're aligned on that, but I can let you finish and then address it.
I'll stop beating it like a dead horse. And I said that because one, it's not good. No, I'm sorry. I'm teasing you. So that's my concern. The other thing is, I'd really like to see a phase-in. I think that I'm not aware of too many projects that are in the pipeline, but there might be some if we had a phase-in, because then people have a sense of urgency. I want to see things built. I don't want to feel good about talking about what percent. I want to see things actually done. So I'd like to offer you an amendment looking at a possible phase-in over a 3-year period, which isn't too long, but we finish out, we wouldn't have, the phase-in was started in 2027 with 30 units, then 20 units in 28, and then finally 10 units in 29. That way, if there's anybody that wants to get into the system, there's a ticking time clock forcing them into the system. Obviously, we have a lot of projects that are in the pipeline right now that would be impacted by this. Because the only projects I'm aware of started before I got elected first time.
Supervisor, through the chair, you know we have quite a number of projects that are in the pipeline. I'm going to turn to Mark Slovik at PDS or Ordinance Anybody to speak to that. And I assume you're talking about if we utilize the 10-unit project threshold as the applicability. Mr. Mark, if you kind of respond.
Through the chair, Supervisor, the way the ordinance is structured and the way the draft motion is written, no in-process projects would be subject to this ordinance. It would only be new projects that are submitted after 3 days after the effective date of the ordinance, which would be 30 days from now, if approved.
Well, this would give, if we finished it, we give them a small window that if they were thinking about it, they'd move I really want to see some of the stuff being built, and we need that housing at every level, you know. So those are two of my big recommendations, is that we use a phase in to incentivize us, and then the other part is that when we want a donation, that we go to the place that makes the most sense. So, and let me just finish with this example. I'm saying it wrong. The Metro High Rising, the project over by Sports Arena, Midway, thank you. That, if we added additional units there, there's tremendous public transportation, there's job opportunities, there's youth opportunities. So if we were to transfer some of the costs of low income there, and they were amenable to it, whether they had another story or brought it, that's an easy fix, high utility, and yet we're serving the community. But to move people to areas they have, who's going to do them, makes no sense to me. And in some of those areas, if you look at the city of Oklahoma, the average household income is $58,000. You know, these areas, expanding the low-income housing into already poor areas, I think Lakeside at the highest is at 68. So putting those homes there, I'm not sure if there's any opportunity. While the land is inexpensive, the cost of use is very high. So those are my two amendments that I'd love to see, and I'm hoping that you'll accept them this time.
Excuse me. Thank you so much for that. Just for the first issue around the land donation, I took the within three miles of the project out. I think that's what you referred to. I removed that because of the same concerns that you have. Also including like the land donation can be within an incorporated area. Excuse me. And also wanted to include the village areas, as a part of, that was the purpose behind the general plan, to have those concentrated areas of more housing, more commercial, more retail, more transportation, to kind of try to start to incentivize to build those up. So I don't know if there's, I'll look at the language to see.
The problem with village is that that's in the Jarrett Lakeside. That is in the Jarrett at the moment. And in those communities, they don't have the transportation. They don't have the equal opportunity. And, I love the village idea because if you get to economies of scale, then your community has everything. But these areas don't have everything, and they're really capped at where they can grow and how they can grow. So, I didn't have an issue when we put a lot of senior living out there. They're not having mobile. They're not at the beach area weekend, or they're not attending to. So
is the donation to any area?
Well, how about EMT efficient in infill areas? So
it's in there. So it's
right. So I'm
beach
saying,
planning area, or BMT efficient or infill area, or highest resource area, which includes transportation.
okay, I misunderstood.
Or village area.
I misunderstood what you're doing. So, gotcha. I'm fine if it's over. So I was worried about that. And then the other, that you said it could be an incorporated or unincorporated. Right, that takes care of that. What about the second part of a potential phase in over 3 years?
Yeah, and just real quick for the only thing about land donation is about the entire ordinance and everything to do with housing. Of course, from my vantage point is that we want mixed income communities. We don't want concentrations of poverty, right? So that, I think this tries to mitigate for all of that. So for the phase in, can you say it one more time? I think I would.
Well, I would submit to you, based on what you said, that we should allow rancho Santa Fe style homes in Lakeside to balance that community out, and especially in Potrero. having said that, I was thinking in terms of a 3-year phase-in. So give them a little bonus. We don't have it kick in until the end of the year. So it's 6 months under current standards. So if they were close, let's get it in. And then next year, we would look at, I'm looking for my little note here. It would be for 30 units, and then in 28, 20 units, and then finally 10 units in 29. So they have this ticking time bomb to get off their posterity and start moving with these projects. And, you know, what I'm worried about is we're crafting something that's perfect, and as a result, we get 100% zero. And, you know, one of the challenges I've had from day one on this board is I've been pushing, Daviette and all her team will say, I want housing in my district in the worst way, and I want all this. And if we had more mass transit, and you've heard me at Zandig, that's my, you know, I'm the town crier when it comes to that. I just want to make sure. So that's what I was thinking in terms of, I want to be reasonable. I'm not asking for 5 years, but I'm just thinking, let's kickstart it, and then if nobody responds, then we can always tweak and figure out where we're going.
Can we do, I'm okay with the phasing, can we do, instead of the 6 months, at the time of when the ordinance actually passes? Because we are also allowing for those who have already submitted to not, this to not be applicable to them.
How about 120 days after this passes? The reason why is, I'm sitting at a table and I'm trying to pencil it out, and I'm thinking, I don't know this is coming. I may not have time to do everything I need to do to prep, to submit something. How about if we did something really crazy and they submitted over this time frame an intent, a letter of intent to move forward, so that we have a little time to put it together? Because, you know, everyone waits. They wait until the last second, and then they're all screaming, and then we find out, you know, we have homes that weren't built after the Cedar Fire because their homes were well over 100 years old, and they used meets and bounds, and now GPS says that's your neighbor's land. There's all sorts of funky things in the unincorporated that we don't discover till we get there, because they're not cities.
Okay, you know, based on the fact that you govern over the most unincorporated areas.
Population. Jim has the most.
Oh, yeah, land mass and population. I'm okay with the 120 days. I'm still a little concerned about it, but.
Okay.
I don't know if the second draft should be okay with it.
But, I'm just gonna have to be.
Okay, let's go to Supervisor Jessen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the motion, agree with most of it, and even the phasing in, the Supervisor Anderson mentioned it. But he does have a point where, you know, if we're going to put affordable housing in unincorporated areas, deep in the unincorporated areas, even if it's in the same village, transportation and other opportunities aren't always available. But you seem to have grappled with that. So I got a couple of questions and clarifications, but one of the things I'm hearing as I talk to our VDS friends is application submitted and application completed. As far as, so, and I heard the word submitted up here, and I hear the words submitted or completed at a certain point in time. Which ones are grandfathered?
Through the chair, supervisor, so the way our zoning ordinance works right now, when new requirements go into effect in our zoning ordinance, if someone has submitted a complete application, yes, a complete application before the effective date. Now, a complete application basically means we review the project, and there's enough information for us to say we can process this project, start the review, etc. It doesn't mean that the project is completed and all of the application processing is complete. So there's a review that we do with county council when projects come in to essentially say, is there enough information to say that this is a complete application versus, I'm going to use a very illustrative example, someone filling out, you know, a fraction of the information needed for us to evaluate a project just to say that they made a complete application and was grandfathered in. So that's an existing practice that we have to date and would be applying to this change as well going forward.
And do you stamp something completed so they have it and they know it's been completed?
Yes.
Okay, I never submitted. And then I have a question, I guess first for the chair and then for our chair pro tem or vice chair. On your policy decision number 3, you had listed sort of a ranking of those decisions. So I'm just trying to figure out in my head, if somebody wants to do the in lieu fee and that's the last in the ranking, do they have to like prove they can't do the other ones? Or I was concerned about the ranking in there. Somebody, the only way they can do it is an in lieu fee. What's the process?
Yeah, and the motion just asked to set up guidelines for it, but it is a priority list, right? So for me, as I stated, the offsite is the least desirable, just from a policy perspective and a values perspective for me. So that's the last on the list. So I would like for staff to set up something to show that before offsite development is approved, then these other priorities have been exhausted. The in lieu is the third one. Affordable ADUs is the second priority. Land donation is the first. From what I'm hearing, land donation may not be very feasible in the development community, but it is just showing that we could have a little bit more ownership over very low and low income.
Okay, so they have to show that those other things are not practical or possible for that particular, and then they can go down to the next level. And then in lieu, I had checked off box number 1 and box number 2. I don't know if there's 3 boxes there, and it says choose one. But I had 1 and 2 that I was agreeable to. I don't know if that's your same line of thinking or you're thinking.
What I had was 2 allow projects to satisfy 50% of the affordable housing obligation.
So they wouldn't be able to do more than 50% with an in lieu fee.
Correct, because number 1 would be to satisfy the full affordable housing obligation, and then 2 would be 50% of the affordable housing obligation, so they have to have some affordable offsite. But then, I guess the question is how would the alternatives come into play there as well? You could do any of those alternatives.
Well, you can't do 1, 2, or 3. Is that what you're saying? Because in some like the locations that Supervisor Aaron's brought up, you're saying they still have to build 50% of the affordable housing on site.
Yes. In policy decision number 3, really it is in all of the above that we're doing, but within the in lieu fee, it is number 2 that is currently in the motion.
So they could only, I guess I would like to see that they be able to satisfy up to 100% of the obligation. Because a lot of that money could go to housing, to our housing and general services, to build affordable housing. Elsewhere, if it doesn't really fit in some of the communities in District 2 that I've never heard of. But so you're requiring a 50% build on site. I'd like to see that a little more flexible. Not that I want to concentrate housing in one position, but even with our housing and development services group, they could take that money and put it in the incorporated areas. I've seen them do it in Vista, I've seen it on Oceanside, San Marcos. So I would like to see 1 and 2 that allows them up to 100% or pay the fee satisfy 50%. To me, I guess number 1 is. I think what I'm trying to do is the more housing we get built, the more either market rate housing that gets built, the more affordable it gets built. If we start limiting the amount or the housing that can be built, that limits then the amount of affordable housing. This is kind of a two-way street, because if we make this too onerous, people just aren't going to build these projects. So it's sort of, this isn't the chicken, this is the chicken, I guess. You got to have this laying the eggs, because if you don't have, the more housing we can build, the more affordable housing we get out of it. So that's my push for that. And then, so I don't know if you want to allow or amend or whatever to allow number 1 and 2.
I'm open to hear from colleagues. I'm still at the 50%, but you know, I'm open to more conversation about it.
Yeah. Part of the reason I'm pushing this, we had affordable housing, affordable housing or inclusionary housing, but I was mayor of St. Marcos, and the housing was there in our stages. But I have seen it work before, and it can still get built, affordable housing, and it's not like we're trying to shove it anywhere else. But if we say you have to have 50% of affordable housing outside, it might negate so much.
Maybe we can do this. Maybe we can. I know the box that says choose one, but I would prefer that if we're prioritizing alternative compliance, then we can make that a number. So we can make number 3 still allow participate 50%. Make number 4 allow for allow all participating to satisfy the full affordable housing option. So if you show you can't do 50, then you can do the entire thing.
Oh, I see.
And then go to 5, which would be outside the bounds. I'm just throwing it out there, because again, I think that due diligence should be shown. I mean, the purpose of inclusionary housing ordinance is to have inclusionary housing. Go ahead.
Thank you. It may help just to also clarify, if an applicant wanted to do the 50% fee, they could still satisfy the requirement through other alternatives, such as the combination of ADUs and the inland fee. So it's not solely inland fee 50%. They could use other components of alternative compliance to satisfy it. And that's the type of thing we could work through with that criteria. If the motion were also to include up to 100% for the inland fee, that could be worked in as well, so if it was so correct.
So you're okay with that? Yeah.
Well, I think what he's saying is the way that the priority is laid out now, that 50% is that an applicant can use the other alternative compliance options, right? So, I mean, so we wouldn't necessarily need to include and pay the entire fee to satisfy. We could have applicants use another alternative compliance method.
Well, I have one more question, and I guess this is for President Curie. I didn't quite understand including tier 3, because I don't know, staff in the presentation is grayed out tier 3. I don't know what that was, but it was most of tier 3 for sale and for rent, and then part of tier 2 was also grayed out as that it wasn't feasible, or I'm trying to figure out what is it you wanted to accomplish by adding tier 3?
Through the chair, that any general plan amendment project includes or require 20% upload. Because right now, tier 2 is 10% very low, or 15% low, or 20% moderate. What I'd like to substitute that recommendation from tier 2 and have it be the tier 3, which is 20% low.
Okay, so you'd be taking out of tier 2
Correct.
the option for general plan amendments of 10% very low, or the other.
And increasing it to 20% low.
Leaving it 20% low. And I don't know what that impact is. So is it, how big of an impact is that on general plan?
So through the chair, our market analysis indicated that it would be a viable option. I believe what was proposed is Ryan, if it's okay, we can have that, this, we was, I think slide 13, it might help with this discussion. In the options that we have on the slide, you'll see there's for sale projects, for rent projects, and then general plan amendments.
Okay, that was great.
On the general plan amendments, what the Chair Pro Tem recommended was the tier 3 selection of 20% low be applicable for general plan amendments. So I believe the motion is tier 2 for sale, tier 2 for, and then under general plan amendments, it would be the tier 3 option. It would be that tier 3 option of 20% low. So you can see it's the kind of two middle squares for tier 2 for sale and for rent, and the GTAs goes down and they're doing tier 3 for 20%.
And is that, and I don't know, what's the impact of not having the option of 15% low or 20% moderate? Are we going to have fewer projects, or is that going to hinder, or, you know, I'm just trying to figure out what the impact of that would be.
I think what I heard the building industry say today is any additional regulatory requirement is an additional cost on the project, and any higher requirement from tier 1 to tier 3 is an additional requirement that can make projects more challenging. That said, what our economic analysis showed is tier 3 is a viable proposal to include in. The other thing I would note is under general plan amendment, applicants have a large degree of discretion in terms of what they want to propose to the projects in order to make pro forma work. So the county is selecting that 20% under tier 3. It allows the individual project to propose a project that would be viable for providing this 20% load. They still think the rest of the market rate housing move forward.
But under tier 2, they'll be 10% low.
Correct. If it were selected for tier 2, it would be 10% very low, or 15% low, or 20% moderate.
Okay, I'm not going to die on this one, but it just seems to leave it at 10% very low, 15% low, or 20% moderate. It gives more opportunities for more projects to be built. So
I think it's a good balance, right? We're you know, I'm supporting tier 2 for sale for rent because, you know, like I said in my remarks, I'm cognizant of the fact that, you know, we want to make sure that nothing that we decide today slows the market, but at the same time, we have a very real need, especially, as I said, for people in my district, for affordable housing. And the general plan amendment, that's starting to stress, it's completely discretionary to us. We're going to be changing land use for projects, so we should make sure that we at least maximize opportunity to create affordable housing as well. Look, we're going to go to the chicken and egg discussion again.
Well, I would think in your district, though, you don't have a lot of general plan amendments. In the unincorporated areas, we have a lot more potential for general plan amendments. I'm just trying not to restrict them so that, like I said, the more projects we get built, the more affordable housing gets built. To me, that's restricting it in the unincorporated area, the tier 3 option for general plan.
If I may follow up, I thought the tier 3 was part of the study that you, with the new data. I wasn't thinking that we're going to effect right now, but we would look at the new data.
No, my amendment was to incorporate that right now and absolutely come back in 20% with updated data, given that this was based on data that's already 3 years old.
Does staff have any information on what's in the potential pipeline where that would impact it?
Supervisor, through the chair, are you talking in general in terms of current GPAs across the appropriate area? I can turn to staff on that. And again, I do want to highlight, depends how this ordinance is applied. If it does phase in, if it applies to projects that have already been submitted or not. So in this case, we'll speak to what has been submitted because that's all we know, and the board's policy decision can determine whether this would apply or not.
Through the chair, supervisors, we have a variety of GPAs in process and a variety of supervisory districts throughout the county. And then we do have applicants talking about doing new GPAs in the conceptual phase. I would also just share kind of for a data point, you know, our average subdivision application is about 45 units. So these we are generally seeing projects, we're not seeing a lot of 7, 10, 14 unit projects. With the land left in the unincorporated county, it has a lot of environmental constraints. The infrastructure and requirements to develop the land usually results in some higher levels of subdivision size proposals. That doesn't mean we don't have SB9s and lot splits and smaller ministerial efforts that go underway, but those that go forward and process subdivision maps that are going to the planning commission, to the board of supervisor, they're typically larger in 20s, 30s, 40s, and higher the size of the projects. But in terms of general plan amendments, again, they range all over the place. We even have discussions of affordable housing GPAs that are being had.
If I could ask to highlight the supervisor's question, we have a number of different projects, but just to give sort of the top, the largest, we do have, I know, at least 1 or 2 very large projects. If you could speak to kind of what the maximum number is, and I know we do have some, speak about Chipper 10 in your district as well. We have at least one currently that's up to how many units?
There is one GPA that is submitted that's roughly 2,000 units. And so we have a variety of sizes of projects that come through.
Could we ask the BIA person to come and talk about this before we start voting, I guess, in tier 3?
Chair, for Commission, we could also ask the advocates their impacts to people who are unable to sustain affordable housing because there's none available. We can ask the group that was in earlier to come in and share as well, so that it's balanced.
I think most of us are set on how we, this is going to allow this conversation, but happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so we're just talking about tier 3 versus tier 2 for GPA projects, right? Okay. General plan, the way that land development deals are structured currently, and I know this is going to be kind of a wonky answer, but we make certain assumptions because we want to try to limit the on land. And so we pay a certain price for land, we lock up land under a long-term option, and we start processing these very long, complicated projects that often take 5+ years to get through because they're complicated. So it's not as though these general plan projects have the same land lift that they once had before. There's a lot more information available, there's a lot more competition in the market, there's a lot more underwriting we do that minimizes that lift. It's not to say that you're not getting an increase in value by doing the general plan amendment and taking that risk. It's commensurate with the amount of risk we're taking. That being said, I think that Vince makes a point, when you propose a general plan amendment, you do have requirements to have typically overriding considerations and public benefits. You're typically going to be required to do an environmental impact report, and you're going to end up having significant unavoidable effects. One of those can be the provision of affordable housing at a higher rate. There are other public benefits as well that you can produce through a general plan amendment type project. In my experience, I don't know that going from a 15% low to a 20% low is going to it's not going to necessarily kill a general plan amendment project, but it does put additional constraints on the project. It does cause the underwriting considerations that went into effect to be reevaluated. It does potentially reduce the feasibility of that project because many of these are larger projects and therefore they have a higher requirement at a higher set aside amount. So it's not a straightforward answer. I'm sorry, it's probably not a satisfying answer. They're all dependent upon the underlying economic situations of each individual project. So applying this so broadly is so difficult to do. It's hard to give a direct answer. Every project is different.
Okay. Chair, before you leave, if I can do
just really quick, and then I'm just going to ask Paul whether she has any response.
I want to understand what you said. So when you do your environmental study, sometimes adding affordable housing is a mitigation, is that?
No. So
how does that range? So let me ask you this. Here's where I'm going. If we did make it 20%, but we said if given the opportunity to make it 20% to earn credits with another organization, does it hurt you that it's required by us? Or is it a benefit? You get to 20, but you opt in. Is there any? Is there any benefit on that second side?
Not a CEQA perspective. The units are going to be units from a CEQA perspective, and so whether if it's a 1,000-unit project, whether we're providing 200 or 150 affordable units, as long as the maximum number is 1,000 units from an environmental standpoint, generally speaking, there's not a huge benefit. That is, the wonky point there is that from a BMT perspective, affordable housing units have been shown to have a reduced BMT compared to market rate units. So there is a little bit of a benefit from your BMT calculations, your greenhouse gas emissions, your air quality emissions, and your noise emissions. But it's de minimis.
Thank you.
Spalding, do you have just any remarks?
Yeah. Thank you. The point that I had made earlier was that if you do pick the 20% for GPA amendments for low income, it should not be set at 80% AMI. It should be set at 65% AMI, because 80% AMI, because we have such a high area-wide median income, is close to, the affordability is close to market rate. So I think 65%, and that is the program I was referencing at the City of San Diego, the Future Urbanizing Area, North City, uses 65%. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second. I think we've exhausted all of the conversation.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The friendly amendment from Supervisor Anderson, I don't think that's been addressed.
Yeah, why not share it again?
Yes, for the 120-day.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay.
I just think you can stop sharing and I'll share, just to make sure everyone's engaged.
It's a 3-phase.
So I don't have that language.
Madam Chair, could I also clarify in terms of motion, if the intent was for anything that has been submitted or that has been deemed complete, would not, that is not apply to that
For my intent, and this is what, my intent was submitted to the county.
I have a procedural question for council. If the seconder of the friendly amendment doesn't accept it, what happens then? So the friendly amendment,
No, the addition to the friendly amendment, it's just a friendly amendment, the seconder has to accept it to be a part of the actual motion.
If the seconder doesn't accept it, it's not in the motion.
so I'm okay with the 120 days, being amended.
Okay, 120 days,
Nothing else.
and any additional language or is that okay?
Projects that are submitted, post adoption of this ordinance, is that correct?
That was my understanding of the supervisor.
What I had suggested was, starting, it'd be 30 or more units starting in 120 days from it being passed. Then in 2028, it would go to 20, and then finally 10 in 2029. So it'd be a 3-year phase.
From what I hear, Mr. Pro Tem, is okay with the 120-day post-adoption. It would be a phase of that would be just a period of time, grace period. That's what I'm hearing. The comfort level with that.
Just clarification, so that doesn't include the 30, 20, 10? Pardon?
For all projects. For all projects.
So you're just talking about the phasing, but not the phasing of the number of units.
It's a 120-day delay, that's all.
It sounds like a grace period.
Okay.
We can't do the grace period, but first establishing and setting aside the requirements as proposed in year 2, so that was included within the presentation slide. And it looks like it's on attachments and in the action sheet. And then policy decision 2 is to set the minimum project size to 10 or more units. And we have a couple policy decisions for 3 for the land donation, so the developer may donate land for future affordable housing, or striking in the unincorporated area, in the same community planning area, striking or within 3 miles of the market rate project site, or a BMT efficient or infill area, or a high or highest resource area, or village area as categorized in the general plan. And we have another policy decision for offsite development, so the developer may donate land for future affordable housing, striking in the unincorporated area in the same community planning area, striking or within 3 miles of the market rate project site, or a BMT efficient or infill area, or a high or highest resource area, and then or village area as categorized in the general plan. Then we have policy decision 4, identify available incentives, which is to allow projects that provide at least 50% more low-income affordable units than required to receive in the striking the priority permit processing and review, and then we're after the priority review within 30 days for discretionary permits. I'm not sure where these 2 ones went, but they're also included in the motion. So we're striking if the applicant requests a density bonus, the other incentives listed below can be provided only if each is individually requested for a regular board incentive. Or adding applicant must identify any requested county inclusionary housing incentives in the affordable housing plan. Such incentives shall not count against the number of concessions or incentives, again, available under section 6365. Then another addition to 6341. Point B, applicability. So one applicability, looks like we're just striking the approved portion of this and then adding submitted to the county for that section. And then the friendly amendment from Chairperson Geary to direct staff to come back to the board for fiscal year 27-28 to study based on recent data and include adopting Tier 3 as set aside the general plan amendment project with a requirement to be 20% for low-income units, and then also adding a 120-day grace period for projects submitted post-adoption of this ordinance.
That sounds like what we have discussed.
Can I be a little picky on the first 3?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, policy decision 2 says project, a minimum project size to 10 or more units. Is it 10? Or do you want the word "it" or more in there, or do you want to just stick 10? Just a little.
Minimum project size is 10. Okay.
You know more kind
10
of
units, yeah, up to 10 units is fine. Because it's a minimum.
Yes.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, we can go ahead and take a vote.
Okay, thanks. And again, we'll have to do a roll call vote. So we have a motion by Supervisor Montgomery.
Can we clarify
Sorry,
one thing?
yes, please.
We want to make sure in the motion, there was a reference earlier to allowance under the alternative compliance for the 100% new fees. As discussed earlier, we wanted to understand if that was intended for the motion and to make sure that the establishment guidelines for how to do the rank evaluation of the alternative compliance is in there. I heard it was discussed earlier, didn't see the next wording, just wanted to make sure that was the intent so that as we implement this, we were following your intent.
Yes, so, I think we landed, and this is, I'll turn to Supervisor Desmond here, I think we landed in being okay with those other alternative compliance methods. Instead of doing a 5th ranking.
I don't see where you're getting 5th ranking. I only see 1, 2, 3.
There's a number 4.
Oh, I see, as far as that, okay.
Yeah.
I was still in the policy decision 3 with those 3.
Yeah, policy decision 3 has 4 rankings.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to, because the way you wanted number 2, and it sounded like you were amenable to number 1 also, only if number 2 couldn't be satisfied.
Yes.
Is that clear as well?
So,
trying to think of the practical implication of that, that's all. I mean, I threw it out here. Ronnie, do you have a response there?
Vice Chair, so it provides an additional option for alternative compliance. They would first go through the ranking and prioritization that you identified, providing why you can't do the most desired priority going down the list. So they'll first go to the 50%, why you can't do that. There is the opportunity to combine the 50% in with these, some of the other alternative compliance measures. The director cited, combining ADUs, maybe combining land donation. So they'll go through those motions, show that that can't be done, and then they'll go to the next one if you do choose to include 100%, and then I think that will be an option available. They'll have to go through that process if that is not something they can do, and then fall on the last priority, which would be off-site development.
And just to clarify, that would be all the options, the options listed as one or the other, with the exclusion of 3 miles off.
Yes, the 3 miles is.
That's off the state.
Okay,
That's
that's
why
right. Okay. Yeah, I think it's, I don't know if this person is properly there.
Change that basis.
Yeah, we'll just go with it as is. We'll go with it as is, and then the only thing that we need to make sure that there's direction to implement those guidelines requiring the applicants to demonstrate the higher priority alternatives. That's it, and that's it, that is in the record. Okay, it's in the record. Okay.
In here, but on the record.
All right.
Okay.
And so let's go ahead and vote.
Okay, thank you. So it was, motion by Supervisor, Vice Chair Montgomery Stephens, seconded by Chairperson Aguirre. Roll call vote. Chairperson Aguirre.
Yes.
Supervisor Anderson.
No.
Chair, Boston Dreamer.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Montgomery Stephens.
Yes.
And Supervisor Desmond. Yes. And that motion passes with Supervisor Anderson voting no, all the supervisors being present voting aye.
All right, thank you so much. So let us go to item number 8. And this is, item number 8 is flood control district, item number 3, and fire protection, item number 1. Currently, this is the notice of public hearing, call for special election to levy special tax, Department of Road Commission, number 1000, zone. For that is the notice of public hearing to confirm fiscal year 26-27 levies for permanent road division zones, county services zone, San Diego County Fire Protection District zone, and the stormwater maintenance zone, and related sequel requirements. Let's go ahead and go to public.
Thank you. As noted, this is for item 8, flood control district, item 3, and fire protection district, item 1. We do have, 9 people request to speak to individuals in person, 7 requesting to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we received 20 comment that was in opposition. Again, for any individual that requested to speak on the side by phone, please dial the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. We'll go ahead and begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra and Cesar Javier.
Obviously, Cesar is one. Talk about suspense. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, if you could bet money on this, but it's like you're already taking this. There's no need to spend more on that. I'm wondering if my social credit score is bad here. I was trying to get some chips from the vending machine. My card wasn't working. It just kept saying it was canceled. So I don't know if I can levy like $2 for you guys to get some chips. No? Well, that's weird. It's totally not equitable. Anyway, the way that levies work is so interesting because it's like, you know, we pay taxes all around that's supposed to go to different things like, you know, storm infrastructure and fire, you know, things. And it's interesting when you guys are doing projects for building, that you build densely, number one, you know, in high, extremely high fire zones. That's totally interesting. And make it so that people really don't have a way to evacuate. So it's like, I mean, will there really be fire protection for people if we're intentionally putting them in these zones? I mean, I guess that's part of it is, you know, to make them think that you want to protect them, which you guys do a great job. I mean, there's a lot of people who are making money from this last item, right? All the suits, so good to see them excited to stay for that yes vote so that we can, you know, make some money off of people thinking that you're going to provide affordable housing. But I'm just wondering when we can start levying taxes on the government. Because technically it should be that you guys, I mean, you're the ones that are making the decisions and you claim to represent people, which was clear today when people from Fallbrook came in and you guys totally didn't vote in favor of them. But at least they can see, you know, what we're really doing here, which is not what's good for the people, but it's good for your pockets. So, you know, you're going to get some more money from the people and they're going to have to basically take care of it on their own. Good job.
Phone callers, when again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comment. We'll go ahead and begin with our first.
It's crazy wake-up call that the board of supervisors are going to have one state recognize the fact that they don't follow the NBRA regulations regarding reasonable effort. The second they go to do that, we're going to all see why all our funds are being rerouted to areas that don't help out San Diego citizens. How we go ahead and fund migrant legal cases. We go ahead and give them houses. We go ahead and support them with everything that they need. Hell, we even vote for them. I mean, the organizations giving them all that stuff, even vote for them. I mean, we've seen this back in '82. The only thing that we did was we created the NBRA regulations preventing people from ever discovering NGOs doing this. Then?
Sir. This is a notice public hearing to confirm fiscal year 26-27 levies for permanent road division zones, county service areas and zones, San Diego County Fire Protection District zones, and stormwater maintenance zones, and related CEQA finding. If you're not able to stay on topic, I will have to have you forfeit your time. So you have about a minute or so left. Please stay on the topic of the agenda item. Thank you.
Yes, I'm expressing to you and everyone up there why I do not believe that you should be in office making these decisions. We have elections for a purpose. They're supposed to be held.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Although one of these rates is totally ridiculous, Heritage on 106 gets a 20% increase, averaging $200. This needs to be reviewed. The other rates look a bit better, but still, you know, I was really shocked on the last item, number 7. I was shocked to hear about no road or facility repairs for years, the faulty communication, the old maps, and charging the wrong people for the fixes. You need to do better. And the major aqueduct not repaired, no wonder the water tastes like crap. You need to communicate better with the homeowners, tell them their obligations before they buy, and tell San Diego to provide current maps or update your own. maybe Damon can help fix this instead of all other BS items you push, like for the independent auditor, who obviously is political appointee, and extending your own terms. Also, expecting a half-cent sales tax to pay for multiple items. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, that's government could probably do better, The Real Citizens Committee were working on this in conjunction with whatever machinations you do. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Wait, which one is Nathan? Oh, the Black Avenue. Oh, the county council. Okay. Anyways, amen to everything Paul DeVolt just said, and what else, man? Shit. It's crazy, it's nuts, it's crazy how people aren't paying attention to how freaking clumsy you guys all are. With so much money and so much responsibility. Hello, am I still there? Am I coming to you?
You are.
Okay, great. So again, amen to the previous speakers and just especially Paul Gold. I just can't, it's unbelievable. But, it's gonna get worse. So buckle up. Buttercups, I'm done.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors and Rizal here. I came because where I live in the unincorporated area, a lot of us are surrounded by a lot of shrubs and possible burning material. And so fire safety means a great deal to us. And I understand that often the County Fire Protection District folks will come out and give presentations to your planning groups. Well, we've never had such a thing, and that's as I can tell, not many planning groups have, if any. And I wonder if it wouldn't be wise for the county to make that opportunity more available. In other words, maybe they could set up a rotation basis and get around, because we are most concerned out here. And I'll tell you, when you walk around on the trails, one of the things that scares us the most is how many cigarette butts we find out here on our trails. It's unnerving to think what that might mean for fire safety in the unincorporated area. And so I'd like to suggest we take a look at smoke-free, vape-free public place policies. Many of our cities have this, and so it'd be wonderful if the county would do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Jennifer Royston. I would just like to say that none of what you guys are doing is truly for the people. I pray for you guys every day that you'll get it, that it's not money that should be turning your world. It should be how much you can put in this world to make it a better place. You guys are systematically putting us in corners where if a tragedy were to happen, there is no way out. We will die. But I guess that's what you guys are looking for, thinking that you will survive. I'm asking that you guys use more integrity and character when you're making your decisions. Pretend like it's your family. Why? Because that makes you a super being, that you can look outside and care about your fellow man and family That's what makes you superior. Not that you make this amount of money and you drive this car. That is irrelevant. I have zero in the bank, but I am richer than you.
Ma'am, I want to give you your additional 45 seconds. Please, I hear what you're saying, but please stick to the agenda item. Thank you so much.
Make your decisions with integrity and character, honesty and truth. That's all we're asking. And that shouldn't be hard if somebody had a backbone, if somebody was strong out there. If you cannot do that, you are weak and a coward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And caller, thank you. And Vice Chair Montgomery Steph, not seeing any other calls called in. That will conclude public comment on this item. And then just noting for the record as well that Supervisor Lawson has left the meeting and will no longer participate in the remainder of today's session, so we can go back to that voting through.
Okay, thank you so much. I will, if there's no further discussion on this item, I will entertain a motion at this time. Unless there's discussion, of course. Okay, so we have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, second by Chairperson Garrett. We can go ahead and vote.
Yes. And that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay. Let's go to item number 9, and that is another notice. Item number 9 and fire protection item number 2 concurrently. This is a notice of public hearing to confirm school year 26-27 levies for community facility districts and related equal exemption. Let's go to public comment.
We have a handful of requests to speak. Individuals in person, 7 requesting to speak by phone again. Also would like to note for the record that we did receive 1 comment on this item, which was in opposition. Again, for the individual that requested to speak on this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Like then by Board Leslie Audra and Javier for an in-person speaker if you have 2 minutes.
Yes. So nice of Tara to stay to give you guys that vote that you needed. So nice the way that the government, or she didn't have to show her face. She didn't even need to be really here. It's like you could just text her and be like, it's time to say yes. Go ahead. And then it's like, all right, I'm out of here. I don't need you guys anymore. We don't need you. Whatever. And I guess like having a baby makes you disabled. That's interesting. I don't know. You know, but poor Tara being disabled, that's unfortunate. Yeah, so less is more. I feel like you guys have enough money. And again, you're not spending it on the facilities anyway. So I don't think that you need more. What I think we need to do is bring in an ordinance or some kind of resolution, because those are really good, solid mechanisms to enforce stuff, right? Or some kind of policy, you know what I mean? Breaking the law but following the policy, where you guys just, you know, get what you have what you got, and do more with it. I mean, I feel like you could. Why don't we bring some people with lived experience that actually are lower than you guys on this dais, you know, the people, the peasants, the ones outside, I mean, especially the ones, you know, that sleep out there. They would definitely know how to stretch dollar. So I feel like if we could bring in some kind of citizen board that would show you guys how to get more for your dollar, then we can really provide quite a lot of things, I feel like. Because it seems like the more money you guys have, the less we have. So I just really feel like we need to invert it back. I know that's going to take money out of your guys' pockets. And Joel, what's the score on the hockey game? Or is it some real estate in Texas? Which one is it? Is it a new house? So you might want to change some policies there to make it easier for you to purchase. You know what I mean? That's why it's good for you guys to be in the government. You guys decide all the things. It's good. Have fun. Yes.
Right in that line, I just ask you to stick to the agenda item for the next public comment.
It is. I'm asking you to.
Thank you. We'll go now here to those that request to speak by phone. When it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and your recording will tell you to begin your comments, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
I'd like for others who didn't have to stick to the agenda item for the last item. Well, anyway, these levies, item 9 look okay, except for Harmony Grove. The other rates look good. It's like you're picking on guys who don't like the development you're trying to shove on them. And again, I was shocked to hear the faulty communicational mess and charging the wrong people for the fixes. You need to do better. And the major aqueduct not repaired. I think there are aqueducts here too. These are capping issues. No wonder the water tastes like crap. But I mean, it affects the whole town. That's something you should be paying for. You need to communicate better with the homeowners, tell them their obligations before they buy, and tell Sandag to provide current maps or update your own. And of course, maybe Dan can help you fix all this mess instead of all the other BS you push. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Hey, Consuelo here, and amen to Paul Bold and Audra. And I mean, we're kind of more on topic than the people there on the dais who are scrolling through nonsense, not listening. But as Paul Bold mentioned earlier, that's government, and there's a lot of people who are being affected and who are being royally screwed as we speak by the decisions that you all are making there. And it's so unfortunate, and I will repeat this over and over and over again, just as much as the person scrolling onto nonsense is going to scroll. I will repeat it, that it is.
Consuelo, please stick to the agenda item, please. Thank you so much.
You're not. So if people sound off topic, it's because they're frustrated, they're paying attention, they see right through the bullshit, and that's all this is BS. It's so sad that you guys are just being patted on the back. You got the media on your side, you got the ones who are talking.
So this is your first warning. Please stick to the agenda item. Thank you.
Attention, calling you out, that continue to be penalized, and that is what comes momentarily. What else do I have to say on topic? How long more do I have?
27 seconds.
How many seconds?
You have 20 seconds left.
20 seconds left. Let's see. On this topic, I'd also like to say that, there's still time for you all, including Sarah.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about right now? Can you pause my time?
This is item 9.
Hello?
This is item, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is item 9, which is a notice of public hearing to confirm fiscal year 26-27 levies.
Okay, well, you can go ahead and start my time.
Your time.
I'm still gonna go back to the same thing about the decision making and what we're doing, what's right and what's wrong, who benefits and who does not, which is the people. I can't hear you.
It was read to you, and you need to stay on topic or else I'll have to give you a warning.
Honestly, I don't know what that means. I'm here strictly because you guys stole my children and are trying to profit from it. So I'm not politically smart or any of that crap. I'm here to fight for my children, for the things that you are allowing the County of San Diego to do, and that is still children, profit off of it.
We will come back to you on our agenda public comment that is appropriate for that time, but it is not appropriate for this item. I'm sorry. Well, I'm gonna have to give you a warning and try to give you one last chance to take to the item.
Please use integrity and character when making your decisions. That's all I have to say, is that character, integrity, the truth, all that good stuff matters. It is what is going to keep us alive when we die. If you don't have those things, you will die. And there's nothing that can stop that. I'm done.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, I will go ahead and move this agenda item and ask for a second.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We can go ahead and vote.
And Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp, that was passed unanimously with all supervisors to our president and voting aye.
Let's go to item number 10. Item number 10, in sanitation district, item number 1 currently. So notice public hearing to approve fees and charges for fiscal year 2026-27 tax roll, San Diego County Sanitation District, Capital Water Maintenance District, County Service Area number 137, the Live Oaks Spring Water System and related sequel winery. Let's go to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Montgomery Stepp. We do have 7 total requests to speak, 2 individuals in person, 5 requests to speak by phone. Also like to note for the record, we did receive 1 e-comment on this item that was in opposition. Again, for the phone callers, please dial into the conference line now. These instructions are provided to you. But to invite forward Cesar Javier and allegedly auditor the opportunity to address the board.
Was it because I was talking about Joel Monica? Is that why I was off topic?
Please stick to the topic.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what was off. I was talking about levies, so I feel like that must have been what it was. Anywho, so it's interesting with water maintenance, water systems, and what we have going on with AI and data centers. San Diego Public Utilities was talking about keeping power on when these data centers, I don't even know, maybe they're planning one. That's kind of what's scary. Because it's like you're implementing things and we don't even have a data center to keep on. But I'm wondering, with these fees and charges, is this going to have to do with making sure that fresh water goes to AI data centers? Because, there's pushes, like I'm saying, to make sure power stays on for data centers while the people don't have power. So are we going to be charged more for this water, these services, and it's actually going to be used for something that is not beneficial to the people? Because it should concern people about what San Diego Community Power is doing when they're implementing this in their policies, yet there isn't anything in place yet. But that would lead me to believe that one is coming. And so when you guys have to deal with water and we're being given back sewage while data centers need fresh water, that's very concerning. Because I don't think we should be paying more money for that. These companies that are bringing these in are the ones that should be paying for our power. Especially when it's going to be turned off and they get to keep it on. And they get to take fresh water. Well, we get shit. That should be absolutely concerning to you guys. And if you had our best interests at heart, you wouldn't allow that to happen. But I'm sure you're going to ensure it does.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak again, do we unmute it? If you're recording, that will begin your comments, and we will go and begin with our first caller.
full of gold. Good for you for keeping the Camp and Live Oak Springs water rate unchanged. The sewer rate increase of 10%, however, is excessive and you need to reject it. Maybe pay for it yourself since it's really a county facility, not just something tiny area should pay for. Maybe you should pay for this instead of an exclusionary declaration of independence party, which excludes everyone who doesn't sign on to your goals and ideas. And you should have been given Jennifer a referral, not a warning, preferably to a good independent outside attorney. But again, it's all about your ideas, whatever else. But hopefully the sewer here does not empty out into local soil or any river which we might drink. And, hopefully everything will be okay with housing and all those other things which is kind of mess up. But anyway, thanks for listening.
Okay, Gonzalo here. Yeah, one would hope there was me, but I doubt that. So let's see. So this is 10 fees for Tampa water. Okay. Yeah. So the rate increase of 10% is in fact excessive. So as what was suggested earlier by Paul, you need to reject this. And it's just so sad about these areas that have they don't have a Saks Avenue around them. They don't have a freaking Nordstrom's around them. They have freaking the Dollar General. And these people are getting these rate increases as though, as if they're able to afford this. And the majority of these people don't even know what the hell is happening. And they don't even know about these increases. So it's just kind of, the audacity. The audacity is all I can think of saying is just the audacity of this board, the audacity of the people who are calling the shots, which is not you, I get that. But it's just very, again, broken record, unfortunate that they're just allowing this shit to happen. But that's okay, because it's FIFA season, right? It's FIFA, it's soccer time. Anyways, done. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Hi, Jennifer Royston. I don't understand why we have a big problem with the water in Imperial Beach with the Tijuana River flowing into it. If it's the Tijuana River flowing into it and it's then making the pollution, well, make a giant fucking dam. Make a big giant dam so Mexico can step up and fix their problem of the sewage, not continue to allow it to flow into our water, contaminate our neighborhoods, our beaches, and you guys sit there and be like, oh, it's a problem, it's a problem. Build a giant fucking dam. And then tell Mexico to deal with it because it's their fucking problem, because they don't want to take their fucking trash into consideration. I mean, I don't understand why your guys' decision making is so altered by money and this and that. I mean, it's common sense. I feel like any person out there with common sense can do a better fucking job than any one of you guys that are standing up there, because you are evil. You take money from the people, you steal their children, you ravage their fucking families, and then you tax the fuck out of them. What the fuck is wrong?
for our children. And we're gonna fucking win. You know why? Because God says that we're gonna win. So enjoy it while you got it, motherfucker. I'm done.
Thank you. And Vice Chairman, we're going to step back into the public comment on the side.
Okay, if there is no discussion, I will entertain a motion to this time.
I'll make a motion.
Supervisor Eversley has moved the item. I'll second. And Supervisor Desmond has seconded. If there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote.
And Vice Chairman, can we accept that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye?
Okay, thank you so much. At each meeting, I ask you to report colleagues want to provide an update, report on progress, and share pertinent information. Anyone have any updates they'd like to share? Okay. All right, let's go on and move to the public comment. Ryan, can you please call me any individuals that are requested to speak?
Yes, thank you. Yes, for that. We still have 13 total requests to speak on non-agenda. We have 1 person requesting to speak in person and 12 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak by phone, this is now the time to please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We will go ahead and begin with that in-person speaker. Were they removed now?
I would think there's 5.
I don't see them in here anymore, but in our spreadsheet it is, while we wait for the other people to call in, make sure that we include everyone. Oh, looks, I see what happened. The in-person speaker has now moved to the phone, so we'll go ahead and go to that in-person speaker. And since we no longer have any in-person, we will now go to the phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You will hear a recording that looks like you're begin your comments. We'll go ahead and begin with that first caller.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'm Dr. Ronald Asplin, Conservation Chair of the San Diego Sierra Club. I'd like to thank Supervisor Desmond for directing agriculture, weights, and measurements to look into pesticide use by West Coast tomato growers on land that is leased from San Diego County. I would also like to thank staff for their timely response on this issue. The county has an opportunity to protect public and worker health, prevent stormwater pollution, and stop pesticide contamination of adjacent properties by requiring strict compliance with all federal, state, and local laws and regulations. The lease requirement for integrated pest management must not allow soil management that relies on blanket chemical sterilization using large amounts of soil fumigants. The new lease needs to have strict non-compliance penalties for labor violations, stormwater pollution, and pesticide misuse, as well as lease termination triggers for repeated violations. Leasing publicly owned land carries a public trust responsibility that demands full transparency, rigorous oversight, and meaningful accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is John Bodorf with CleanEarthForKids.org. I'm here again asking why the county is trying to lease land to West Coast tomato growers and why staff is gaslighting us. Your staff claims they can prohibit the use of approved pesticides. The county absolutely has the authority and legal right to restrict pesticides on its land. The county regularly puts in restrictive covenants into its leases. Saying the county can't stop West Coast tomato growers from using toxic pesticides on land leased from the county is false and gaslighting. Who in the county is so set on leasing this land to them? Staff states that West Coast Tomato has a 97% compliance rate on its pesticide use. The problem is that they use massive amounts of highly toxic pesticides banned in other countries that are known to drift through the air and leach into the water and soil. So even a minor compliance gap is a massive risk to those in the homes, schools, and daycares right next to this land. If you actually care about people instead of profit, you will not give the police to West Coast Tomato. The RFP for this land lease was written to address the harms to human health and the environment, along with the labor violations of factory farms like West Coast Tomato. So why is county staff so determined to lease this land to a company that so obviously violates county rules and regulations and the purpose of the revised RFP? Leasing public land to West Coast Tomato is a breach of the public trust doctrine and would aid and abet violations of the Clean Water Act and threaten the students at Mission Vista High School, along with children in nearby child care and preschools. Please take direct action and stop the land lease to West Coast Tomato growers. Our children's health and future depend on the actions you take today. Thank you from Clean for Kids.org.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Zora. Your phone might be muted. Cannot hear you. One more call for Zora before we move on. Okay, we'll go to our next caller.
Start recording. When summer's here, AAA reminds us that for 100 days, the deadliest days of teen drivers are between Memorial Day and Labor Day, when teens are more likely to get in a car crash for reasons ranging from distracted driving to alcohol and drug use, especially during summer events. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says teen drivers ages 15 to 18 were involved in crashes that killed over 2,300 people in 2024 alone. Driving under the influence of alcohol are more likely to speed, take risks, and make poor decisions, including likelihood of crashes, injuries, and fatalities. While the effects differ from alcohol, marijuana impaired driving can still significantly reduce driving performance and increase car crashes. The impact extends beyond driving. Impaired driving can lead to severe injury losses of life, trauma to victims and their families, healthcare costs, and strain on emergency services and law enforcement resources. Preventing impaired driving is a public safety priority. Education, enforcement, safe transportation alternatives, community awareness effects can help reduce impaired driving incidents and protect everyone who uses the road. We need to recognize within our community even small improvements in prevention can save lives and reduce the devastating consequences of alcohol and marijuana-related crashes. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you. We'll go to our next caller.
Hello. Hello, Jennifer Williamson here. The County of San Diego Child and Welfare Services is directly responsible for our human trafficking problem here in San Diego. They have hired low-level criminals, the judges like Judge Alejandro Morales, Alexander Calero. These judges allow these criminals back out into the streets only to do their dirty work, to harass, stalk you, make false reports about you in order to obtain your children. This is a tragedy. You are destroying American children and their families. These are long-term effects that were not present before you kidnapped, stole, and are hurting our children in order to control them. We are under a new government. He is interested in all the fraud and abuse, and the stealing of our children is the biggest fraud, waste, and abuse that is here. I just don't understand what you guys are doing. It's lies, but it's not gonna force you to die anyway. Don't you want to live?
and president founder of All Pictures from Life for Animals. I am a San Diego resident. I'd like to ask Supervisor Carolyn Weaver why she is complicit in animal cruelty. This is no longer just about Deborah Barkley on Artesian Road, because it is not only the person engaging in the act who bears the responsibility, it is also those who have the authority to stop it and allow it to continue. Supervisor Carolyn Weaver, why did this horse, Penny, become emaciated? Why have horses continued to suffer despite years of complaints, reports, photographs, videos, and pleas from concerned residents and animal advocates? Supervisor Caroline Weaver, Central Office, has worked very hard on this issue, but if that is true, then why is it still happening? Why are animals still suffering on Artesian Road? Why do we continue to witness the same heartbreaking conditions year after year? The reality is simple. Results matter. If meaningful action has been taken, we would not still be here discussing the same neglect, the same suffering, and the same failures. Supervisor Caroline Weaver's lack of compassion and urgency towards both public safety and animal welfare has become a severe stain on the county's obligation to serve the community and protect those who cannot speak for themselves. This public deserves answers. The community deserves accountability, and the animals deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Montgomery Steph, not seeing any other callers sorry, you just showed up. All right, one more. Go to our next caller.
Good afternoon, I'm Peggy Walker. I want to address how in the past few weeks we've watched efforts to undercut transparency, keep ad hoc committee meetings out of the public domain, and self-serving supervisor interests undermine public trust in this board's majority. 2 terms is the term limit voters set for county supervisors in good faith. It's long, but now we review one of their terms. I agree with Supervisor Desmond, who said this was non-reform as self-interest disguised as a ballot question, and it's a deceptive, easily misunderstood ballot measure. Next, 2 of you flatly refused reasonable proposals for ad hoc committee transparency and greater public participation, deciding that those meetings should remain out of the public purview. Your objection regarding privacy for children is easily addressed by existing law. Those meetings can remain closed. Yet you refuse changes to enhance transparency and public understanding. The question is why? What are you trying to hide? These maneuvers seem combative and surreptitious. They signal that this board's majority doesn't value public involvement outside of certain special interest groups. Non-transparency and deceptive, quote, reform come across as efforts to keep the public at a distance, and it just doesn't set well. Thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. And not seeing any other callers called the call in queue. Now that Vice Chairman said that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this afternoon.
Okay, let's go to public comment for closed session.
We have 10 total requests to speak, 5 individuals in person, and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Again, this is the time if you have chosen to speak by phone on closed session matters. Please download the comments on now with instructions that were provided to you. Item 11 on today's land use legislative session agenda and item 1 on today's in-home supportive services public authority agenda are the closed session matters. The closed session agendas include 5 matters. Individuals that have requested to speak on closed session matters must provide comments related to the matter listed in the closed session item. Otherwise, your comments will be considered off topic. We will begin with in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward to stand on the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. You will then have 1 minute to address the board. If you could please please begin by stating the name of the audio record. I'd like to invite forward Cesar Javier, Greg Sherman, Martha Hutchins, Stephen Shrewsbury, and Olivia Biafra.
Good thing you're here and you're taking everyone's time because nobody is here. So smart. Yeah, county council. Seeming that we're in constant litigation, obviously he needs a pay cut, Demon. Brown. And, you know, the fact that he aids and abets illegal behavior, you know, racketeering, the abuse of public funds, child trafficking, the abuse of animals, suffering, neglect, exploitation, you know, protecting the organized crime syndicate that you guys have going. Unless this is for Ewing, I'm not sure. But either way, you guys are all involved in the same thing, destroying children. As you know, you guys make a lot of money off of that. You heard Jennifer. See, those are the effects of the things that you guys do, all under the guise of protection, right? And Damon doesn't even know the Constitution, so I think he needs a pay cut. In fact, let's go as low as possible. I don't know, like 40 grand a year. I think he could live off of that.
Not seeing any movement in the chamber from any of the other speakers that signed up, but we'll now go to our callers that requested to speak by phone, and we will go ahead and begin with our first caller.
Paul, what happened to items FLO 1 and 2? Kimball versus Cabot. Person reported someone looking into vehicles while standing in his driveway. Sheriff's deputy found no evidence of burglarized cars, but ran into Mr. Kimball, a homeless person whom he actually acknowledged was not looking at vehicles. Mr. Kimball also works and was not on probation or parole, but was detained anyway, prevented from recording the scene, and after protesting and then chased down on the ground. Wonder who that might look like. After a bit of cussing, Kimball was arrested for resisting. Also taken to the hospital for neck and back pain, and then the charges were dropped. The deputy went way too far. Just the county purpose, police hiring and training, and
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker. The next speaker is Consuelo. Your phone might be muted.
Consuelo here, amen on the gold, amen Audra. Lawsuit after lawsuit, you know, it's June 24th, 2026, and the system is still failing. Now more than ever, we have local county officials throwing money at silly things like soccer events, while people in their own district struggle to afford the basics. The system remains the same. The only difference is that it has become more corrupt, more sloppy, and these elected individuals have become more arrogant than ever. Officials continue failing at the most basic responsibilities of roles they were entrusted with. It somehow expects more trust from the public. We have truth tellers, whistleblowers, and people exposing uncomfortable truths being punished, some sitting in jail. Andrea Ebbing. Others are silenced with gag orders.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next caller.
Case A is Zach Kimball versus the county and Deputy Emilio Castiero for deprivation of rights. Someone was looking into cars and Curtis, and when Deputy Emilio arrived on scene, Zach was looking at his phone. Zach tried to record video, but his assistants became resistant. Zach was taken by ambulance, and allegedly Deputy Emilio handcuffed Zach to the bed, and no one allowed him to use the restroom. Deputy Emilio has got qualified immunity on 8 out of 10 claims. Case D is the performance evaluation of County Council number 105, unqualified DEI Damon Michael Brown, who quit on the city of Compton, only has a political science degree, yet was the legal and policy advisor to AG Bonehead Bonza, and look how far the state has fallen on illegal immigration, safety, education, voter fraud, and our freedom and down rights. But the positive, I guess Damon has fell downwards, back to Hellhole Canyon, and we know he'll fall just like Claudia and David did. Final note, Peggy is the out so that we're the ugly crowd, Maddie, and animal abuse lover, Tara, stop. Thank you, have a great day.
And Vice Chairman Governor Steph, not seeing any other callers in the calling queue, that is going to conclude public comment on closed session matters.
Thank you so much. We will now proceed with our adjournment in memory. Today's adjournment in memory will be presented by Supervisor Desmond in memory of Carrie Sharon.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, appreciate it. This is in memory of Carrie Sharon. With shattered hearts, we close our meeting in memory of Carrie Sharon. He passed away peacefully on May 24, 2026, surrounded by his loving family. Following a tragic, brutal, and unprovoked attack outside his home in Escondido, Carrie faced his final days with the support and care of those who loved him. We extend our deepest condolences to his family and loved ones as we honor his memory today. Carrie was a proud U.S. Army veteran who was well known in his community for his patriotism, often displaying American flags and patriotic decorations outside of his home. He served during the Vietnam era, and he was a devoted patriot who believed deeply in the freedom of speech, American exceptionalism, and service to others. He dedicated countless hours to volunteer work, including helping build homes for families affected by wildfires through Habitat for Humanity, and supporting numerous charitable causes throughout his community. Alongside his beloved wife, Maria, with whom he shared nearly 2 decades of marriage, Carrie faithfully served with the Knights of Columbus, preparing thousands of meals for philanthropic organizations and fundraising events. His generosity and humility were evident in everything he did, from supporting children in need through Special Olympics fundraising efforts, to baking thousands of cookies for deployed American troops, never seeking recognition or personal gain. Guided by the belief that what goes around comes around, Carrie lived a life defined by kindness, integrity, and unwavering dedication to helping others. He will be remembered as a loving husband, a loyal friend, dedicated volunteer, and a proud American whose legacy of service and compassion will endure for generations to come. May he rest in peace, and may God bless Maria and his children, David and Alejandra.
Thank you, sir. With that, the board will proceed to closed session, and then we'll be in recess until tomorrow, Thursday, June 25th at 9 a.m. for the general legislative session. Thank you.
The board will now recess into closed session to consider those matters listed under item 11 on today's session agenda and under item 1 on today's in-home supportive services public authority agenda. If there are any reportable options, they will be reported out during the general legislative session of this meeting tomorrow, Thursday, June 25th.
More fraud, waste, and abuse, you guys. It's crazy the things that go on in San Diego. But we'll be back tomorrow for the general legislative session. We'll be talking about more fraud, waste, and abuse. So stay tuned. Stay classy, San Diego. Sure this county council is going to get a pretty hefty raise, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, take care. Bye.